Hello everyone, so we're going to start the webinar, and if the voice is not clear at any time, please don't hesitate to point this out to us. So my name is Rasha Fadlallah and I'm a Senior Evidence Field Specialist at the Knowledge 2 Policy Center at the American University of Beirut. I would like to thank you for attending today's webinar on efficient literature searching. This webinar is being offered as part of K2P mentorship program, which aims to build capacity in evidence-informed policy making. The webinar will be facilitated by Ms. Aida Farha, who is the Information Specialist at AUB and a long-time affiliate at K2P Center. Ms. Farha has over 35 years of experience in literature searching, and she also offers a graduate-level course on efficient literature searching at AUB. So for those of you who have attended the workshop in Beirut, this webinar will serve as a key refresher when it comes to the ABCs of basic searching techniques. Whereas for those who have not attended the workshop in Beirut, this webinar will equip you with the basic core skills, including key tips to efficiently search the literature for the best available research evidence. The webinar is a prerequisite for preparing evidence synthesis products like systematic reviews, as well as knowledge translation products like policy briefs. This is because, as you know, these products rely on the availability and retrieval of high quality and relevant evidence. And this is what this webinar is designed. So the main purpose of the webinar is to help you achieve that aim. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a basic level webinar. So for those of you who are interested in more advanced levels, we would be happy to discuss later on. So before I leave the floor to Ms. Aida, I would like to remind you that the webinar will be recorded. Accordingly, we recommend that you mute yourselves for clarity purposes, and if you would like to discuss any of the points, or if you have any questions, you can unmute yourselves accordingly. Ms. Aida, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rasha. It's a pleasure for me to be here today. So I'm going to go directly with the presentation.
And please, we want to make sure, are you seeing the presentation? Is it showing?
So as we said,
so yes, the presentation is showing.
Okay. So as we said, the aim of this webinar is for you to understand the value of information retrieval skills and to understand basic search techniques that will help you search practically everything. And we're going to give you some practical tips on effective Googling and effective PubMed searching. And we will couple it with exploring searching for existing systematic reviews, because this is the aim for what we want to achieve. So I'm going to start with a definition of evidence-informed policymaking. It's an approach to policy decisions that aims to ensure that decision-making is well informed by the best available research evidence in the available time. So it is, this should be systematic and transparent in accessing and appraising evidence that would be used in the policy-making process. Why does evidence matters for health system decisions? This is simply because health systems impact health of the population, and it's a very important outcome that we want all to reach the best result. So we have to move away from the decisions that are based on single personal experience or judgment or opinion, and we have to look for the best available scientific evidence. When we are equipped with the best evidence, we will reach better decisions, and of course it will end up with better health of the population. So evidence-informed health systems decisions, they are needed to evaluate effectiveness and cost benefit of health programs, and they are needed to implement new health programs or new policies. So there is a real high cost of not using evidence in our policy making. As you know, there is the evidence pyramid that this is a minimized example of it. The lowest level of evidence is back down here as background information and expert opinion. This corresponds to mainly textbooks and similar information. And as we go up the pyramid, the level of evidence increases. Up above the expert opinion, we have the case-controlled studies, then we have higher the cohort studies, and then the randomized controlled trials. And on the top of the pyramid, as a gold standard for evidence, we have the systematic reviews that we're going to see today how to search for these. Now, before we go into searching for systematic review, we have to know why it's important for us to improve our searching skills. I like this PowerPoint page. It's about Dr. Sidney Burwell, who was the dean at Harvard in 1956. He was addressing the graduating medical class at that time, and he said in his talk, half of what you have been taught as medical students will in 10 years' time be proven to be wrong. And the problem is that none of your teachers knows which half. So if you're going to work as healthcare professionals, how are you going to go ahead and do that? Is it with the information that you got during your university graduate school? Of course not. You have to be updated with the latest evidence, because evidence changes with time as new evidence appears. And also now we are facing a problem that I call tsunami of information. We do have a lot of information. Here I have put statistics for 2010. They found out that the medical literature doubles every 5 years. And every day we have 6,500 medical articles. Out of these, 1,800 articles go into PubMed, and we have 11 systematic reviews per day, which is really too much for us to grasp. So if you want to be updated with the latest evidence for something, we have to be experts in searching techniques. And this is what we are going to learn step by step. And I like this saying, high cost of not finding information. I don't know if you know, but in 2001, Johns Hopkins University, they wanted to test the effect of hexamethonium bromide on asthmatic people. And they did the necessary work, and during the trial, the volunteer, a woman, died. And it was a big scandal. Johns Hopkins University, one of the most prestigious medical research centers, how could it do such a deadly thing? And after investigating few months, they found out that one of the main reasons was that the researcher didn't know how to search, but he thought he knew. He didn't consult with an information specialist, and he missed all those articles that talk about the lethal effect of hexamethonium bromide. So we're going to start with the ABC of effective computer searching. To do an effective computer searching, the ABC starts with Boolean operators. We have 3 Boolean operators that we can use in our searching of the computer. These are and, or, and not. To demonstrate how to use them, we will take a very simple example. Suppose I'm now at a computer and I'm interested in pregnancy in hypertension. Usually I don't go to the computer and type in pregnancy and in hypertension. What I should do, I should search for pregnancy, search for hypertension, and then combine the two with the Boolean operator, which is and. So I will type in the computer pregnancy and hypertension, and I will be retrieving the shaded part in the screen. This shaded part will contain both concepts at the same time, and this is what I want. And if you notice, using the and, the number of hits decreases. On the other hand, if I'm looking for hypertension and I know that it could appear as hypertension or high blood pressure, I can use the Boolean operator or. I can type into the computer hypertension or high blood pressure, and I will retrieve the shaded part. This is enlarged number of hits. We get more hits as a result. And any document that contains either hypertension or high blood pressure would be relevant to my search. So we can OR usually synonyms to increase the number of hits that we retrieve in our search. So let's continue with our example. If we're looking for pregnancy and hypertension and we type in pregnancy and hypertension, if we do not receive enough hits, then I should know that if I OR synonyms, I will increase the number of hits. So I can type at the computer pregnancy and hypertension or high blood pressure. But is this correct? Can I give such a statement to a computer and expect good results? Actually, it's not a good way, because different computer programs that we all search every day, each computer program will be built in differently. Some computer programs are built into process and before. Some programs are built into process or before. And in each of these processing, we get different results. So how can I know every program that I search, how it is done? Of course, it's not feasible. So they have designed a way that I can force the program to process it the way I want. Do I want the AND to be processed first, or do I want the OR to be processed first? And I do this command by simply putting parentheses around the terms that I want to be processed first. So my first question to you, I have written two strategies below. Strategy number one is for when I want the program to process Boolean and before pregnancy and hypertension or high blood pressure. And the second strategy is when I force the program to process or before. Now, can you tell me which answer is correct for hypertension in pregnancy? Is it number one or is it number two?
If you want to answer, please unmute yourselves, or you can type the answer in the comment section. And we just want to clarify that when we are using P and H, of course, you won't type P or H in the computer. You're going to say pregnancy fully. You spell it out fully, and you spell hypertension out fully. But for the purpose of the demonstration, we are using these abbreviations.
Okay, so actually the answer to the question is number two, because in number one, what we're doing, we're asking the program to do pregnancy and hypertension first, the result to be ORed with high blood pressure, and the final result here, of course, is not going to be all relevant to me. Some of them would be only high blood pressure. And this is not what I want.
Someone answered two, which is the correct answer.
Two is the correct answer, because in two, I'm forcing the program to do hypertension or high blood pressure first, and the result is going to be ANDed with pregnancy. Then the final result of number two is going to be very relevant for my hypertension in pregnancy. So this is the correct answer is two. The third Boolean operator is not. For example, if I'm interested, sorry, if I'm interested in schizophrenia in females, I can search schizophrenia not males. So my question number two for you, is this a safe way to do the search? Can I say safely schizophrenia not males?
Why or why not? So if you want to answer, please remember to unmute yourselves. So yes, one of the participants said yes. What about others? What do you think? Is it a safe way? Yes, we have two yeses.
Oh,
we have three yeses.
Three yeses. Okay, actually, it is not a safe way. I'm sorry. It is not safe because if there is a document that talks about schizophrenia in males and females, I will not be retrieving it, and it might be a very important systematic review for me. So I will be losing. It is not safe to use not because you might be missing some important documents. To make it more safe, I can change the not to and say schizophrenia and females. So please keep this in mind. Using not might not be all the time safe. So try to search for. Now, some programs, they have Boolean by default. This means that you don't need to type in the Boolean operator. It is taken by default. For example, we all search Google. Let's say if we go to Google and we type in infant mortality as is shown in the screen, how will Google translate my command? Google has a Boolean by default. It is and. So Google will understand the infant mortality you see on the screen as infant and mortality. So Google will give me any document that contains infant and contains mortality inside the same document. They could be next each other and they could be very far from each other. So the meaning will go there. So it is like as if I'm doing infant and mortality. I don't need to put the and, it is there by default. But if I get many irrelevant documents, what I can do also in Google is do a phrase search like this. I can put within quotation marks infant mortality. So this command will ask Google to get me only the documents that contain infant and next to it is mortality. So it removes the Boolean and by default. So these are techniques that you can use while searching to modify your search. Now, my third question, if we're searching a database like Google that has default Boolean and, which of the below strategies retrieves a greatest number of hits? Is it number 1 when I put infant mortality, or is it number 2 when I enclose infant mortality in a phrase?
So we have one who said 1 and another participant who said 2. So 4 participants said 1 and 1 participant said 2.
Okay, the answer to the question is that number 1 gets me more hits because number 1 gets me infant and mortality where they are dispersed anywhere in the record, and it also gets me infant when it's next to mortality. While number 2, it only gets me infant when mortality is next to it. So definitely number 1 has a greater number of hits that we retrieve. Another thing that we have to understand as basic search techniques is what is called truncation. Truncation, usually it is done by using the star. For example, if I'm searching for pollution and the database I'm using allows truncation, I can search POLLUTI and star. So I'm truncating pollution. This search will retrieve for me polluti, if there is such a word. It also retrieves pollution, pollutions, polluting, pollutings. So it gets me any document that contains POLLUTI and anything that follows as rest of this word. But is this a good way to truncate for pollution? Actually, it is not, for a very simple reason that pollution, polluti, star, the way I put it, will not get me pollutants. And pollutants is a very important term when I'm searching for pollution. So I should do a truncation for pollute. I should do POLLUT star. This correct way of truncating will get me pollution, polluting, and also pollutants. So if you want to truncate a word, you have to be careful where do you truncate it. Now my fourth question, if I'm searching a database for cat and I don't want to miss the cats, what's the best search strategy to ensure that we get cat as well as cats? Number one, it says I truncate cat, and number two, it says search for cat or cats. Now, which one you think is better?
All participants are choosing one. One participant chose two.
Okay, so let's analyze it. Number one, what does it give me? Number one, I'm truncating cat. So I will retrieve documents that contain cat or cats or catalog or catalyst or catermina or catalyst. So it's anything that starts with CAT. And we have a large list of terms that start with CAT. So I will be getting many irrelevant documents. Number two, I will be getting only cat or cats, and these are the ones that I want. So I will not be getting the irrelevant. So definitely number two is the correct way of doing the search for the cat. Number one will get me many irrelevant documents, much more than the cat and cats. So I will be wasting days screening these irrelevant. When we say we want to learn how to do good searches, it means we want to do a search that will get me almost everything that is relevant with the least irrelevant. I don't want to have many irrelevant and spend days on screening these. So there are other less common search options when we do searches on the computer, something that's called adjacency search. Here we can specify the number of words coming in between the terms. For example, in Google, we can use the star, and the star would represent maximum number of words within a phrase. For example, if I go to Google and I open phrase for health, space, star, space, evidence, and close quotation. This in Google, it means the star, when there is a space before it and after it, it means it represents maximum one word. So here within the phrase, I will retrieve health evidence, and also I will retrieve health system evidence. I will also retrieve health care evidence. Instead of putting health evidence within the phrase and to get only health evidence, here it gives me options to include maximum one word in between the phrase health evidence. And sometimes it's very useful because I'm interested in health system evidence or healthcare evidence. In PubMed, this option is not available. Another thing that we can do in searching is specify the field that we want to search in. Instead of searching everything in the indexed records, we can specify, for example, I want to search only in the title of the records. If this is the case, in Google, the command will have to start with all in title colon. For example, if I go to Google and I type in all in title colon health systems evidence, the way it's written here, it means I'm asking Google to give me any document that contains health and systems and evidence in the title of the document. In PubMed, if I want to specify, I want to search for records only that have certain words in the title, I can do it like this in PubMed, health systems evidence, and to enclose TI in a square bracket. Okay, so now we still have one thing before we go live into the searching. Yes.
So for adjacency, sometimes the word after health is hyphenated. Will it be included using this way?
Okay, if it's hyphenated and the dash is attached to health, it will not, it will be considered as one word. For example, health dash care will be considered as one word. Okay, now one more thing that we have to understand about searching computers is we have to realize that there are two types of searchable databases. We have databases that utilize keyword searching, and we have databases that utilize controlled vocabulary. An example of keyword searching is Google. Google, how does Google index the documents in it? To put it very simply, Google has a computer program that roams over the internet, and when it sees a site that it can access and it's not indexed before, it indexes it by the computer. The indexing, it takes the words that the document contains, the author has written in the document, and it indexes it by these words. It doesn't use intelligent indexing. So when I go to Google, for example, if I'm interested in cancer and I type in cancer in Google, I will retrieve any document that contains cancer and indexed by Google. This cancer, it could be documents talking about cancer, but it could be documents containing the word cancer, but it's not talking about cancer. And also it could be cancer horoscope, which is not the cancer disease that I'm looking for. So Google or any keyword search will not understand cancer. They just give the documents that contain the word cancer. And if I want to do a comprehensive search of cancer in Google, if I put only cancer, I will retrieve documents that contain the word cancer. But if there is a document that doesn't contain cancer, but the author writes tumor, the British way, or tumor, the American way, or neoplasms, or malignancy, I will not retrieve them. So if I want to do a comprehensive search on Google for the disease cancer, I have to OR all these synonyms. So I will type in at Google cancer or neoplasms or tumor, O-U-R, the British, or tumor, O-R, the American, or malignancy, or. So I have to include these synonyms to do a comprehensive search on Google. The other type of databases that utilize controlled vocabulary, an example is PubMed. And the controlled vocabulary in PubMed is called MESH. How does PubMed do the database indexing? The indexing is done by human beings. And these human beings, they have to read the articles and see what the articles are talking about, and they assign indexing terms from the controlled vocabulary to reflect the content of the article. So here it's an intelligent indexing. We have humans that think and read and index what the document is talking about. And the indexing terms they use is controlled vocabulary. For example, the controlled vocabulary for cancer in PubMed is neoplasms. So if I go to PubMed and search for the controlled vocabulary neoplasms, I will get articles talking about neoplasms, or talking about cancer, or talking about malignancies, or talking about tumor, the British, or tumor, the American. So the controlled vocabulary will capture all these different variations for the term. And if I want to do a comprehensive search on PubMed, for example, for cancer, I can use the controlled vocabulary and OR it with keywords. When a database uses controlled vocabulary, I can use the controlled vocabulary as well as keywords. But in databases that use only keywords, I'm stuck with only keywords. So here I have given you some Google tips for you, because I know everybody searches Google and I use these a lot. First of all, we said that the Boolean AND by default for Google is AND. If I want things to be synonyms like cancer, neoplasms, tumor, I should insert OR in between. or else the space will be considered and. Google does automatic truncation, so I don't need to use the star. So I can write pollute and no need to put the star. It also can search for phrase, as we have seen. Now, below are two tips that I use a lot in Google. The first one, if you want to ask Google to search PubMed for us, and sometimes we need to do that, we have to put at the end of the search of Google site:/nih.gov. For example, if I do a search on PubMed, of course, PubMed is a better database. It's more sophisticated than Google and more intelligent. So we should search PubMed, but in certain cases, if I don't find enough hits from PubMed, or if I want to do a more comprehensive search, I will search PubMed at the beginning, but in addition, I can go to Google, put my search terms, and at the end, put site:/nih.gov. So Google will go to PubMed. Another reason why I do that is because PubMed does not search the full text of the article, and Google does search the full text. And sometimes the terms I'm looking are very specific, and usually they don't appear in the title, they appear in the full text. So this is a very useful tip that I hope you will be using later and enjoying the benefits of that. Another thing in Google that I use a lot also is that Google indexes LibGuides. LibGuides, these are guides that academic librarians write for their users. And supposedly, let's say one of you, you are interested in knowing how to do critical appraisal for practice guidelines. If you don't know how to do that and you don't have an academic librarian at hand, you can go to Google and search like this: practice guidelines, a phrase search, then critical appraisal, another phrase search. There is, of course, a Boolean and by default here. And at the end, put LibGuides as one word. This will give you LibGuides that academic librarians have designed for their users to show them how to do critical appraisal for practice guidelines. This is a wonderful service. Anything that you need to get as information or from libraries, you can ask Google by simply putting at the end LibGuides, and you'll get a list of academic librarians. You can choose the one that you find interesting. So that was Google. Now we want to move into PubMed. As you know, PubMed is the most important bibliographic database for medicine and medical sciences. It's free. You can search it, pubmed.gov. It utilizes controlled vocabulary, and the controlled vocabulary is mesh. And what they do in PubMed is that they group the mesh terms in a tree structure format. Here as a sample, I have put cardiovascular diseases. All of these are mesh terms, controlled vocabulary that indexers use to index articles in PubMed. And we have broad mesh, cardiovascular diseases. Narrower, we have heart diseases and vascular diseases. Under heart diseases, we have all of these. Under vascular, we have these. So this is the tree structure. The nice thing about PubMed is when I search with a mesh, I retrieve articles talking about that mesh term or about any of its narrower mesh terms. For example, I simply go to Google, PubMed, I go to PubMed and type in cardiovascular diseases as a mesh. I will retrieve articles talking about any of these. It's a wonderful option, this mesh and explode, that is very useful for us, and I advise you to use it regularly in your search. Now I'm going to take you to PubMed to show you live how to search PubMed, how to do effective searching on PubMed. Please realize that PubMed is actually an index to around 5,700 international journals in medicine and medical sciences. It doesn't include everything because we have more than 30,000, but it does include the majority of the good ones. And it's mainly a database for medicine. That's why for you as public health, you might find it a bit not easy, not friendly, but I'm going to try to show you the things in it so that you will be able to search practically anything on PubMed. I'm going to start with the basic things. For example, if I do like this, for example, cardio.
Just a question, so can you all see PubMed? Is the screen showing? Yes, okay.
Okay, great. So if I go simply to PubMed and type in cardiovascular diseases and click search, what do I get? I get 2, 3, 6, 5, 6, 10 hits, number of hits. Of course, it's expected because PubMed goes to the early 1900s and it's a very popular disease. Now, but what are these articles? Are these articles that talk about cardiovascular diseases, or are these articles that contain the words cardiovascular diseases? We need to get answer to this. Another question that we need to get an answer to is if this search will include, for example, stroke, articles that talk about stroke or hypertension, even if they don't have cardiovascular diseases. Actually, looking at the result, we cannot tell. We have to go a little bit down to something that says cardiovascular diseases. And here it says that we have searched for cardiovascular diseases as a mesh search. So when I see, So I'm searching for cardiovascular diseases. I go down to the search details and I'm going to put it on the whole screen. Search details will tell me how PubMed executed my search. If I want to do a good search on PubMed, searching with the mesh is a good search. So I have to make sure that my concepts were mapped correctly to the mesh. And I can see that only when I look at search details. So I typed in cardiovascular diseases and clicked search. So we got here cardiovascular diseases as a mesh. So it is a good search for me. Now, let's take another example. Suppose I'm interested in integration of non-communicable diseases in healthcare. When I have a topic like this, I have to identify the concepts that I need to include in my search. And in this case, integration of non-communicable diseases in primary healthcare, I will include two concepts, non-communicable diseases or primary healthcare. So I will start with non-communicable diseases, and I will have to see that non-communicable diseases was mapped correctly to the mesh. Okay, it's mapped correctly to the mesh. Forget about the other additional things. So it's a good search. Then I will search for my second concept, primary health care. So I simply type in my concepts, each one alone, and go at the search details to make sure that it is mapped correctly to the mesh. So this one was mapped correctly to the mesh. So it's a good search that I have done. Now I have finished my concepts. I have to go to the advanced. The advanced will give me the search history that I have done. And here I can combine my concepts using Boolean operators. My concepts for this case is number 3 and number 4. So I have to come here up, click on edit, click on the cursor, and simply type number 3 and number 4. Of course, I have to use the Boolean AND so that I will get my results, and I will click search. So now this is a good search for non-communicable diseases and primary health care because it was mapped correctly to the mesh. I got 405 hits. Now, if I want to limit to systematic reviews, for example, how to do that in PubMed, we have the filters on the left-hand side of PubMed, but they don't show all of the filters so that the page will not be overcrowded. They show a sample of these filters. The systematic review filter is under article types, and here they show only clinical trial and review. So I have to go into customize, select the systematic review filter, and click show so that it will show here on the page. And now I want to limit my search to only systematic reviews. I click on that, and here it tells me filters, it's systematic reviews. We have 17, and these are the 17 documents. Some of these documents are free to everyone when you have free PMC articles. So it means if you click on the title, you get the full text of the whole article. The others, you need to subscribe to the journal to be able to access the full text. So this is one way how we can search PubMed. I want to show you another way that we can search PubMed. If we want to do sophisticated search, we can go to the mesh database. And in the mesh database, we can search for example, let's say cardio. If I want to see the mesh for cardiovascular diseases, to do more sophisticated search, here in the mesh, I have something that's called subheadings. I can specify subheadings. For example, if I'm interested in economics of heart diseases, cardiovascular diseases, I can select one or more of these. So it will help you if you go and look at these to know what options are available. Then we click on Add to Search Builder and search PubMed. So this is, we have 242 systematic reviews about cardiovascular diseases economics. Now, if we take, let's take another topic which is difficult to find, and this is maldistribution of physicians. If I'm interested in maldistributions of physicians, I got 0 because the limit is still on. There are no systematic reviews. So I have to remove the limit from here. So I have 242 hits for maldistribution of physicians. But is this a good search? I don't know. I have to go to the search details and make sure that my terms were mapped correctly to the mesh. Now, maldistribution was not, but physicians was. So this is not the best search that I can do. Of course, this search will get me some of the documents that I'm interested in, but will not get me everything. If I want to do a better search for this, then I have to specify that I want to see all the articles that have maldistribution physicians in the title. And I do it by putting square bracket TI at the end of the term. And I have 39 hits. Now these 39, sorry, I forgot to put maldistribution also as in the title. So we have 6 hits for maldistribution physicians in the title. Now, these articles, I want to see these articles, how they were indexed, what meshes were used to index these, because PubMed could not map maldistribution to the mesh, and as such, I will not be doing the best search. So I have 6 items here. If I have to change the summary to abstract so that I can see the meshes of these 6 hits. The most recent one appears at the beginning, and here are the mesh terms. So I have to come here and look at the mesh terms and see, is there a mesh that will contain my concept of maldistribution? Now, in this case, I am maybe medically underserved area. Here I have to tell you that PubMed is mainly a clinical medicine database, but of course it has public health, but such topics might not be indexed very specifically. So there would be many meshes to include your term, like medically underserved area. Let's see another article, physicians, supply and distribution. That might be, and here physicians is a mesh, and when you have a slash, supply and distribution, you take it from the subheading. So this is a very appropriate mesh for the maldistribution. Another one, physicians, supply. So you have to see as many articles, around 10 probably, to see what is the mesh for your topic. So I'm seeing that most of them have physicians, supply and distribution. So I have to go back to the PubMed under the mesh database and search for the mesh physicians. This is the mesh physicians. Now I can take the subheading supply and distribution and click add to search builder and search PubMed. So now I'm searching for physicians, supply and distribution. So I got 8,000 hits, and these are better hits. These are articles that talk about physicians, supply and distribution. And this is what I want when I say maldistribution. So maldistribution of physicians is better searched as physicians, supply and distribution as a mesh, not as I keyed indirectly, because the maldistribution was not mapped correctly to the mesh. So whenever you're searching PubMed, key in your concepts and look at the search details. If every concept was mapped correctly to the mesh, you're doing a good search, accepted. But if there is one or more concepts that were not mapped correctly to the mesh, then you have to do as we did. You go to PubMed, you put the term maldistribution in the TI square bracket, physicians square bracket TI, and you look at the records. Change the display to summary so that you will, change the display from summary to abstract so that you will see the meshes and pick up the appropriate mesh, then use it in your search. Now, PubMed has many other things. I want to show you one more thing. There's the topic-specific queries here, and you can go down under health services research, and it has search in filters for these terms. So if I come here and put end of life services, for example, and I can choose one of these, I'm interested in quality improvement, and I click go. So this will search for me quality improvement of end-of-life services, instead of me bothering to do the search for quality improvement, which is not easy for me to do it. So we have 5,000 hits. If I want also to limit to systematic reviews, I simply click here. So I will be having now 186 systematic reviews that are quality improvement for end-of-life services. So this is another thing that PubMed has. One more thing before we go from PubMed, we have here something that's called clinical queries. Clinical queries, it's a subset of PubMed that is evidence-based, and it has a section for systematic reviews. So I can go to clinical queries and type in, for example, obesity policy. Of course, I can type in whatever topic I'm interested in and click down. The page here is divided into 3 sections. The first section is for clinical study categories. Mainly it's for clinical medicine. And the second session is for systematic reviews. So here you have 75 systematic reviews for obesity policy effectiveness. And they list here the most recent 5. But if you want to see them all, you simply click here and it takes you to PubMed, where you can see all the systematic reviews for that particular topic. So this is practically a quick glimpse on PubMed. Now we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. I will go over it quickly because I have mentioned most of the points. So now, one of the slides here is how to search for systematic reviews from PubMed. Here, I remind you that you do the search as usual, and on the left-hand side, you have the limits. You go to the article type, as we did in the example, and select systematic review. This is one way. Another way, you go simply to clinical queries. We did that, and we select the section for systematic reviews. But this systematic reviews indexing in PubMed, it's not 100% accurate. If you don't find much from this search or this search, you can go to this resource and take the systematic review filter, apply it to PubMed. It is more accurate than that one. You simply take it and you end it with your search strategy. Now here I have put for you in summary how to search PubMed. You can read them later and apply it. Now, how can we search, or where can we find already existing systematic reviews? PubMed was one of the places. Another place we have Cochrane Library. Cochrane Library, mainly it is for clinical medicine, but it does contain some. So I'm going to take you directly to the Cochrane to show you quickly how to search Cochrane. Now, Cochrane is a database that you have to subscribe to. If you don't subscribe, you will not be able to search it. Cochrane, it uses the mesh like PubMed. And if I want to use the mesh, you have to go to the advanced search and do the search with the mesh. Suppose I'm interested in cost effectiveness of home palliative care services. Here in using Cochrane, it's like PubMed. You have to break it into concepts and search each concept from the mesh.
I just want to make sure that the Cochrane Library database is showing.
Is it showing?
Can anyone confirm to us? Yes, okay. Yes.
So in my topic, I have 3 concepts: cost effectiveness, home services, or palliative care. So I will search each of these in the mesh. You see the mesh here? I simply click here and try to search with the mesh. Enter the mesh term here. So I will go for cost effectiveness. Okay, I will select, and then I will click look up. Okay, it got me cost. I'm going to change it to costs and cost analysis. This is the first mesh that I have to use. I click add to search manager so that it gives it a set number so that I will be able to end it with the other ones. Then again, I go to the mesh database to search for the second concept, which is home care services. And again, I click to see the mesh. Okay, maybe home. Okay, it didn't identify home care services when I put it one word, home care. When I included a space between them, it did, and here is the mesh. So again, I click add to search manager so that it gets a number. And finally, again, I go to the mesh to search for the third one, which is palliative care services. So I search each of my concepts as meshes. Okay, it's palliative care, it doesn't take services. So I go to palliative care. It's very important that I find the mesh. And then again, I go to add to search manager. Now I have my concepts here. It's number 2, number 3, and number 4. So number 2 and number 3 and number 4. I simply combine the 3 meshes that constitute my topic, and I will get 12 hits. And if I click on the number 12, here, it gives me at the beginning Cochrane reviews, and I have 1 Cochrane reviews. This is the title. I click on it and I can read the full text if I subscribe to Cochrane. So this is one way I can search for systematic reviews. Another way is I can use the health systems evidence. Health system evidence, it gives me systematic reviews for evidence, for health system evidence. Now, for example, it's very easy to use it, this one. I simply type in...
Is everyone hearing? Is the voice clear now? Is anyone having problem with hearing us?
So now we move to the health system evidence to do a simple search. It's a very easy way of searching. Now, suppose I'm interested in cancer screening program, for example. I simply type in here, screening programs, and I click enter. So I have 160 hits, and these are the hits. They give me, of course, the year of publication for everyone, and they appraise them. They give me the quality. For example, this is 4 of 10, this is 7 out of 10, and so on. Now, if I want to add more, if I'm interested only in assessment and I got a large number, I can simply add assessment and see the number. Okay, it went down to 31. And also on the right-hand side, I can limit with any of these. I have a collection here under domains. So I go to anyone and select it. Area of focus also, for example, if I'm interested in low middle income countries, the 31 were for low middle income countries. So here they are, and I can read them and get them. So this is also a very important resource for the systematic reviews. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So we said the health systems evidence is a free of charge resource, as well as the health evidence. They're quite easy to use. You simply type in the concepts that you are interested in. And also epistemologist, these are free of charge. The only one that needs a subscription is the Cochrane Library. Here also I have put some reliable free health resources. We have the ECRI, these are free, as I said, you can all use them. ECRI guidelines, it gives you guidelines, but you have to register for free to be able to use it. It's a very nice resource. Also PDQ evidence for evidence policy making. Public Health Plus, it's also a McMaster database. TRIP database is a very nice resource. It searches a number of sites that are evidence-based, and it gives us systematic reviews. It's quite easy to use. You simply type in your concept, and on the right-hand side, you can limit to systematic reviews. And we have also the nice guidelines that give you guidelines for you. Here is also other miscellaneous free resources. Medlineplus.gov, this is the consumer health resource, a very nice resource for consumers if you want to use it. All of these are free. Global Index Medicus is a resource from WHO. It's similar to PubMed, but it's configured by WHO, so might contain some of the public health information more than PubMed. And there's also the health services research from PubMed. We went there and we did the search for quality improvement. It's also free. And we have Zotero, which is a citation management tool that you can group your records and do sorting and send them and do whatever you want.
You can ask me.
We have time? Okay, so we have time now. Do you have any question, or would you like us to do more PubMed searching? How much time do we have?
So this is an opportunity for you to ask questions, particularly those who already have priority topics in mind and would like to develop knowledge translation projects on it. So do you have any questions in terms of searching?
Or any topic that you would like us to search on PubMed Live? Type in your topic of interest and we can do the searching together online if you want.
Or you can also speak to us directly by unmuting yourselves. Any questions, any clarification? This is the chance now.
Let's go to PubMed.
So wait, there's a question here. What about search categories for publications only submitted from certain countries? So limitation by countries.
Okay.
So I want to check, are you having problem with speaking directly to us?
This is Leila from Croatia. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I have one question and would like to listen about search strategies. This is about the effective financing mechanisms that can be used to control costs in the universal health care program for hospital services.
So you want tips on how to search for when it comes to financial coverage of universal health coverage?
Yes. So what are the best available evidence about financing mechanisms used in universal health care program to contain costs?
Okay. And the other question is about publication by countries.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to do the searching together. Let's start with the first question that we got. Okay. So how can we limit the search retrieval to documents that come from a certain country? This can be done with a specialized tool by putting address. You know, when they do indexing of articles in PubMed, they put the names of the authors, they index the author's name, and they index also their address. So when I search PubMed, for example, if I'm interested, let's say I'm interested in all those papers that are indexed in PubMed that are coming from Lebanon. So I can do the search like this, Lebanon. If I do search Lebanon like this, it searches Lebanon as a mesh or Lebanon as a keyword. Lebanon as a mesh, it means articles talking about Lebanon, but this is not what I want. I want only articles where the authors are in Lebanon. So I will have to put like this, Lebanon, square bracket AD. This means I'm looking for Lebanon as an address of an author. So we have 23,000 hits, 710 hits from PubMed, where the author, at least one author in the papers, have written Lebanon in the address that he is affiliated to. So this is one way to get publications from a certain country. Now, if I want to make it more comprehensive, because I know some in Lebanon, we speak English and we speak French, some of them might put Liban. So I will do like this, or Liban AD. I don't want Liban to be searched anywhere in the record. I only want Lebanon or Liban to be searched only in the address of the author. And this is how I have to do. I don't want to get everything about Lebanon. I don't want articles talking about Lebanon. So I have to do the search like this. So whatever country you're interested in, you simply type in the name of the country. You have to ask yourself how authors will put this country in the address. As I said, here in Lebanon, they might use the English Lebanon or the French Liban. So to do a comprehensive search, I will be doing it like this.
But what about if they want studies focusing on Lebanon?
Focusing on Lebanon
Or
will be, so it is
area.
talking about Lebanon. So here we have to look for the subject Lebanon. It's not a keyword address of the author. So if I want it as a subject, I can do Lebanon as such, and as we have seen, it is mapped to the mesh. So here it gets me articles talking about Lebanon or containing the word Lebanon. So this would be a good way, but is it very comprehensive? No, but it gets you most of the articles.
So you add the geographic area as a third concept.
I don't want, no, if you are interested only in Lebanon, because you have to understand that indexing of articles in PubMed is done by thousands of indexers, and it's not always error-free. Sometimes you might have an article that's talking about Lebanon, but the indexer, unfortunately, does not put it under the mesh Lebanon. So you will be missing it. So when I search for articles talking about Lebanon, I always or it with Lebanese. Any article that contains the word Lebanese will be talking about Lebanon. So it would be an addition for that if I want to get more sophisticated searches. So you see, when you search PubMed, there's a good search, there's a better search, and there's the best search. It's always trial and error and checking in the search details what is being searched. Of course, Lebanese does not have a mesh. The mesh is Lebanon, but Lebanese will get me articles that are about Lebanese, but the indexer missed indexing it properly under Lebanon. So this is if I want to do a better search for them. Now we're going to move for the second one. The second question, we have concepts, the concepts that were raised were financial support, financial support
for universal health coverage.
Okay. So I can either search every concept alone and then go to the advanced after I make sure it's mapped correctly to the mesh, go to the advanced and add them with Boolean operators, or I can put them directly on the same screen. So I'm going to try to put it directly here. So financial support, universal health coverage. Okay, I'm going to stop here and see what we're going to get. Okay, we got 455 hits, but I have to go to the search details to make sure that they were mapped correctly to the mesh. I'm going to put the search details on the whole screen. So financial support was mapped correctly to the mesh, so it's a good search. But the universal health coverage was not mapped correctly. So I'm not doing a good search here. What shall I do? I should dig in and see what is the mesh for universal health coverage. And to do that, I have to do like this: universal health. I have to look for articles that have this concept in the title. We have 964 articles that have universal health coverage in the title, and PubMed could not map this to the correct mesh. So I have to see these articles, 964, what meshes were used to index these articles. And if I go there and find the mesh, then I will use the mesh and I will get better search. So to see the mesh, here the display by default is summary. It doesn't list the mesh. I have to change the display to abstract. Simply select abstract and I will get the 964 hits with their abstract and meshes. The most recent one, it's still not yet indexed, so there is no mesh. It doesn't help me. This one, there is no mesh, there is no mesh. I'm trying to see the articles that have meshes indexed. These don't have meshes yet. They have been recently entered into the system and not yet indexed with the mesh. So it's not going to help me now. Okay, so the first page gets me the most recent articles. All of them are not yet indexed. So I'm going to go to page, let's say 45. I want to go to page 45 so that I will see the meshes. Okay, so this is an article that has in the title Universal Health Coverage. So I have to see, this is the mesh, Universal Health Insurance. I can select subheading economics for that if I want, or I can select organization and administration. So you're doing the search for universal health coverage, you would know what you want to select, but definitely the mesh is universal health insurance. I will see a number of articles, not only one, and then I will collect all the possible meshes that I need to put, and then I will do the search. So we have to write universal health insurance, we have to write the health services accessibility, single payer system. So you will decide what meshes you want to include in your search. Maybe healthcare reform, maybe not. I don't know the topic, but you know better than me. So you have to come here, look at the meshes, select the meshes, maybe health benefit plans. I don't know, maybe insurance health. You as a researcher for this topic would know what meshes you're going to select from these. And once you identify these meshes, then you go back to PubMed and you key in your concepts, and that way you will be doing a good search. I hope this is clear.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aida. It was very helpful.
So anything you want to search, you have to make sure that it is mapped correctly to the mesh through search details. If it's not mapped, then you have to do the exercise that we did. You have to search for articles that contain your concept, which is universal health program coverage. I'll search for them in the title, and I look at the abstract display of the article to see the meshes. I will browse at least 10 articles for their meshes and collect the meshes that are suitable to me, and then I will design concept 1 and concept 2 and concept 3, the number of concepts that you have. And remember, on the left-hand side, if you want to limit to systematic review, then you go under article types and select systematic review if you're looking for systematic reviews. And then you will see the references. This way will get you very good references. If you want advanced, you will get excellent, but it's not our aim for this session. But with this session, you should be able to do very good searches for practically almost everything.
And Musaida, if I may add concerning the question about geographical coverage, so as you mentioned, health system evidence is the world's most comprehensive and continuously updated database for systematic reviews related to health systems topic. So whenever you are working on a health system topic, it's the go-to database. This is your starting point for systematic review. And if you look to the right, under area of focus, you can limit the search to the specific country that you want. You simply click on the countries that you want, or to the specific region that you want. If you're interested in European region or the African region, you just click on it and it will limit the search to the region or the country that you want. Or even if you want to limit it to LMIC versus high-income countries. I just wanted to add
Actually,
this.
health systems evidence is a wonderful tool, and I'm sure you would all use it every day so many times. It's quite easy. You just need, as Rasha said, to look at the right-hand side and to do your limits for the search, and everything is systematic reviews and continuously updated. You're lucky to have such a resource and free of charge.
So, do you have any more questions?
Now, if we're searching, okay. So if you have any question, if you want to contact me by email, if you have a topic and you're not being able to search, you can contact me by email. I'm ready to answer you.
Thank you, Ms. Aida, for this informative webinar, and I'm sure we always benefit from your expertise. And if we or the participants need your support, or the participants in particular, if they need support with their search strategies later on, they can come back to us and we would communicate with Ms. Aida.
Definitely.
She is willing to help us.
Definitely. You're most welcome.
So if you don't have any further questions, I guess we can wrap for today. Thank you for attending the webinar. And if you have additional questions beyond the webinar, we will be happy to respond later.
No questions, but I would like to say a big thank you to Ms. Aida and you, Rasha, for delivering this interesting session, webinar. So I have listened it once I was in Beirut, but still it was very good refresher for me.
Exactly. It's always a refresher with Ms. Aida.
You see, the information is very huge and we cannot combine it in just 1.5 hours. But every time you listen, even the same session, you will learn new things. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
We have we are on time, so I'm going to leave the floor for you if you have any question or clarification from your end.
Thank you very much for the delivery. Can you look at, just go to the second to the last slide, the slide before this one.
Yes. This one?
Deciding if you want to use a consensus approach. Okay, no, the one before this.
Yes.
All right, yeah, where you talked about deciding whether you want to use a consensus-based approach or a matrix-based approach. Can you throw more light on the two, consensus-based approach and matrix-based approach?
Okay, so personally at K2P, we learned that it's better to go with the matrix-based approach. But if you look in the literature, sometimes So the metric-based approach, it's related to criteria. So you have the criteria, and then you calculate the means and standard deviation in order to identify, in order to generate a ranked list of priority. However, if you look at the literature, sometimes they don't always use criteria. They go for a consensus-based approach. So in this case, you ask for consensus, you try to reach consensus, but at K2P, we try to avoid it because, as I mentioned, there are lots of biases. People come with preconceived ideas, values, and if you don't have a strong facilitator, you might end up having the priority setting dominated by few or strong policymakers who will try to impose their views. And others might.
Exactly.
That's why we try to avoid it. But for transparency purposes, we are putting everything that's out there. We at K2P use criteria and metrics based, but we are saying that sometimes you can use consensus, and this is mostly the case if you have one thematic area, let's say Syrian refugee, and you want to identify topics within that thematic area. Maybe you, in this case, you can use a consensus-based approach, especially if you have a low number. But if you have a large number of stakeholders, you have lots of thematic areas to consider, then definitely you have to go for the metrics or criteria-based approach.
Okay, that's quite clear. I was actually looking at it from the point of view that, from experience, once we have to do a priority setting, formal priority setting, that it would necessarily have to involve the metrics.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing today, yeah, sure, that's my orientation before now. You necessarily have to involve the metrics.
Thank you for your question. So any additional questions or reflections?
Thank you very much, Rasha and Lama. This was very helpful webinar for us because we face these difficulties in our practice. And for example, I didn't know if we could have a list of a priority topics that along with us, and that should be defined prior to the meeting. And this is a very good new knowledge for me, and I will use it in my practice. I think we will use the Curatio team.
This is excellent to hear. So definitely you can have a preliminary list of topics or a preliminary list of thematic areas. It's up to you. You can go into your priority setting with a predefined thematic areas or with predefined topics. Definitely up to you. And is everyone fine with the timeline? So 1 to 2 weeks to follow up on the draft priority setting approach and tools that you will each develop as part of building institutional capacity.
Yes, sounds normal.
So the approach is the overarching framework, and the tool is just similar to the tool we showed you earlier, which includes the criteria and the scale. So this is just
Rasha, may I ask you, are you going to share the presentation with us?
Yes, we will share it with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.